Are sellers wrecked? Man, these guys got to get their expectations right. You have found Bid Nerds. We analyze listings on Bring a Trailer, Cars and Bids, sometimes P-Car Market. We analyze those listings and then we make predictions. What will happen as a result of those listings? This is Bid Nerds. You can play along and see if you're better at it than us. Bidding starts now. Maybe. Bid Nerds is your YouTube car game show. That is if I hit the right button. What do I know?
That's the longest intro of the year so far. Jesus,
was it?
Almost put half the audience to sleep. Yeah,
man. Well, there it is. My partner busting my chops right out of the get-go. My name is John Polnick. We are coming to you live from the Container Park in downtown Las Vegas, as well as my partner Michael Deeb over there on the other side of the screen. He's in San Francisco. What's up, Michael Deeb?
Good evening and welcome from the Club Wheelhouse Studios. JP, got so many cars going on. I'm like super excited. To the audience out there, me and my bid partner, we've got lots of cars coming to market. We got lots of cars coming to the podcast. I am excited. JP, let's jump in, man.
And away we go, like Kevin Bodeman says. If you're watching live, make sure you hit the like and subscribe button if you haven't already. Okay, like I said at the top of the show, if you're new to the show, you're like, what is this Bid Nerds thing? What are they talking about? Are sellers wrecked? We go through auction listings and we get into analyzing those listings. We make predictions based on our analysis. You could call us experts, but you wouldn't be very bright if you did. Chances are you might be better at this than we are, but we have a lot of fun doing it. And we do encourage you to see if you can outbid us by commenting below your bids as we talk about the cars, and also if you're watching live in the chat. If you haven't introduced yourself in the chat, that's where the real magic happens. The nerd herd is watching and they are all over the world. We got nerds everywhere in the world, Michael Deeb. Nerds are everywhere.
Yeah, and they are just, they're all over us. JP, I opened the show with my hood up and I got like 5 comments, and then our bid turn at 2, Lucas at 2 says, it looks like I just robbed a 7-Eleven. So the hood is off. JP, the sleeves are rolled up. The cars are dripping with potential. Let's go.
Let me be very clear. My partner didn't just knock over a 7-Eleven. 7-Elevens are in the nice neighborhoods. He's knocking over, the Grub and Pub or whatever the heck it is. Pump and Grub or Gas and Go or whatever. All right, let's get to it. We always start off every episode by going over the predictions that we made on the last episode. That's right. We hold ourselves accountable to our predictions. Let's see how we did before we get to the new predictions. What's the first car on the list, Michael Deeb?
All right, JP, for context, the warehouse is in a neighborhood where it would be the 7-y-8 or 7-y-11. That's what would be the 7-Eleven here. JP, we are going to take a quick return to this almost stunning, but unfortunately still yellow 1990 Porsche 911 Carrera 2 Coupe by Singer, one of the early efforts by Singer. And if I recall, this was like the Angeles Crest commission, as I think it was once coined, running as an alumni listing, running as a premium listing on Bring a Trailer. Our car is listed out of Fort Myers, Florida, and is showing 8,000 miles on the odometer since it was rebuilt by the good folks at Singer. JP, one of these early cars has a 4-liter Ed Pink built motor that makes about 380 horsepower. You and I got into it on the last episode because I called the car yellow and you said it's anything but yellow, pointing out, citing as your evidence that the only yellow on the car is on the side stripes around the word Porsche, and that I am colorblind like most dogs and that this car is not yellow. JP, I figured because this car has been in the public eye, and I think you even asserted that this is softly considered one of the more traded Porsches in the Singers in the secondary market. I wondered aloud if this car would do as well as it did last time. For context, JP, last time was October of 2023, where our car, this particular Singer, was bid to $955,000, where it failed to sell on just 16 bids. The car has since received a new fuel tank and one or two other little service items, presumably back at Singer. The car comes back to market with fresh assets. JP, I suggested that this car would not do as well as last time and would fail to sell. You said that is nonsense. Singers are selling like crazy and the market is up. And I think you're confusing the more higher spec Singers that are selling, like the turbos and the DLSs that are bringing $2 and $3 million. I don't think those are helping the values of these. It's certainly not a yellow one that's been traded more than all the others. JP, I proudly proclaimed and pounded the desk that our car would hammer at $911,000 and would fail to sell. You took the other, and it was just us on the show last time, your bid coming in about 50 grand above mine, $964,964, where you believed the car would sell, and you figured you had a pretty good grasp of all the real estate above you. The Classic.com tells us that the average selling price of any Singer in the secondary market is 1.4, but that number is skewed to these early models by the results of the newer, more expensive versions. So I don't like that number for a comp. JP, I happen to do really, really good to kick off the show. Our car hammering for exactly $911,000, where it did fail to sell on a whopping 55 bids. So JP, I, as one of the co-hosts of the show, have decided with all of my wisdom to give myself a double Yahtzee because I called it twice. So I gave myself 2 asterisks, which means I get 2 scoops of ice cream at the next fun function. But JP, we got 55 bids this time around, only 16 last time, and the car is still a cool car. Again, we're under by the number. We're way under the number by inflation. But what do you make of the bid count versus the last count? Because one of the things you asserted to support your bid was that Singers are hotter than ever and that these cars are doing well. My only counter to that is Singer's got a couple of new models that cost a lot more money. And whenever one of those sells, we're talking millions of dollars, not close to and just under $1 million. But 55 bids tells me that people really wanted this car. But my estimate at a softer value than maybe everybody was thinking turned to be right on the money as far as what the audience thought. But 55 bids versus 16 bids tells me something in your argument is true. And I'm just trying to see if we can define that, because they were fighting over it this time and it didn't get to the number it got to last time. So what do you make of that result? Is there anything you can sort of peel back from the tea leaves and go full Columbo and tell us what you see? Because they definitely were hot on the car, but they just weren't hot on going over $1 million.
Yeah, I mean, I think my partner is right about everything except for one thing, and that's the color on this car. It really, look,
yellow.
Singers are still hot. I mean, this seller is wrecked. This seller has wrecked expectations. That's the bottom line. This particular car, this particular Singer, like we talked about on the last episode, has been just passed around a few too many times. This car has had too many owners. This car's got a few miles on it, which is ridiculous. This car should be driven. It's one of the earlier builds, but I think that a lot of the earlier builds are actual cars that people actually like more. So I think that folks were in there bidding on this one because they thought maybe they'd be getting a deal, and they really thought, like I did, that the seller had more reasonable expectations, and I think people thought that they might be actually be able to get a Singer for under $1 million. This one is one of the few that we've seen that has a salvage title on it. I don't think that should matter at all, but it actually, maybe it did. Maybe it actually affected this one. A lot of the Singers were built on wrecked cars that have had, cleaned titles, if you can call it that, right? Washed titles maybe would be a better way to put it. It's not like Singer's going to build a car on an unsafe, wrecked, chassis or something like that. But look, the bottom line is I think people thought that there was a possibility to get a deal. They thought that this seller was coming to market at this time of year, kind of late, and because a lot of people thought that maybe that the seller might be getting a new Singer, time, after waiting for years to get the car that they actually wanted. This is kind of like the interim singer. But that's my take on it. I think you're right though, Deeb, that there were so many bids. A lot of people really wanted a shot at this thing, and the seller just needs to get out of their own way. Look, if you had put the same amount of money, when did this car sold? Back in October of 23?
Failed in October 23.
Yeah. I mean, if you'd put that same money in the S&P, you'd be talking about, $1.5 million right now. So these cars don't buy one of these as an investment. Buy it to drive. If you want an investment, there's better ways to go about it. What do you guys think? Let us know in the comments. And what color is it? It's not yellow. It's baby poop. Maybe you could put some other words in front of the yellow to get away with yellow. But when we think yellow, we think of yellow bird or bright signal yellow or something. This is turd yellow right here. Let us know what you think in the comments, and what's the next car on the list. Speaking of crazy colors.
So our boy Sahan is in love with ruby stone, and I think he likes that eggplant color. What do they call it? Mystic something or other. Sahan is all about the purples and pinks these days. He sent us this 1991 Porsche 911 Carrera 2 Targa 5-speed that was born in this color. And JP, it gets better from there. It's got the they're saying blue leather with Porsche script inserts, but this reminds me of that anniversary car where they had that, I forget the name of that interior, but, it's kind of a light purple to me, not a blue at all on the inside of this car. The only problem with this car, JP, is that it is on a Canadian title and it is still in Calgary, Alberta, Canada. Showing just 133,000 kilometers from new. That's about 82,000 miles. This was a very rare car and an even rarer colorway with very fair mileage and condition. There is tons of upside for this car, with the exception that at the current moment, JP, tariffs make this car almost impossible to import and still achieve a retail number for the seller. You wondered aloud several times during your take on this car, could this car just simply be listed on BAT and have a domestic sale in Canada to a new Canadian buyer and skip the whole tariff conversation altogether? John, our friends at classic.com tell us that the average selling price of a 964 Targa with a manual is a $121,000 conversation. A little nugget that I wrote down in my notes that I forgot to say when we covered this car originally is that the exact same 964 Targa with a Tiptronic only brings $68,000 on average in the secondary market. So, JP, you're talking about 80% higher value for the manual on 964 Targas. Then we discussed what this car would bring if it were in the United States. JP, I thought even with the mileage and the condition, this would be somewhere between $175,000 and $190,000 car. But being that it is in Canada, I thought this car would only hammer for $120,000. And I thought that it might fail to sell at my number. JP, you thought that this car would hammer at only $85,964. John, our car did very well. It hammered over both of us at $128,964, where it's sold on 40 bids. So, JP, the question I get to ask you that nobody knows the answer to is, where does the buyer live? Where does the buyer intend to register this car? At $129,000 plus $5,000, he's in it about 134 to 135. I'm guessing, JP, this car is staying in Canada, and that somebody is not spending 50% on that number to bring it in. Would you agree with that, or do you think it's coming to States?
It was in the comments. The buyer was talking about, they were asking for recommendations on shipping, people who could get the car across the border. So this car is definitely coming to America, and again, this is just one of those situations where who's wrecked here? Canadians are wrecked, because this guy who sold this car, instead of, there's going to be a 15 to 25% tariff on this car. No one seems to know exactly what the tariff is today, right now. But last I heard, it was actually 24% plus a 1.5 for VAT, for a value add tax. So call it 25% on top of that 128 plus the taxes plus shipping plus a lot. This car, that means the person who's buying this car is going to be spending somewhere in the neighborhood of $170,000 for this thing. That's $30-something thousand that could have gone in the pocket of the seller, but instead is going to the government. So yeah, this is I feel really bad for the owners of cool cars in Canada, because they are stuck with them. They can't get rid of them. There are not enough Canadian buyers to make these things worth, to keep the values up in the domestic market there. So yeah, what a cool car, but oof, that's hurting. That's hurting right there. What do you guys think of the results of this 964? Do you think it was worth paying all that extra money for purple? Look, I got a question for everyone. I have a 964 convertible. I'm thinking of just like welding a Targa loop on the damn thing and putting the glass on the back. I mean, I wouldn't expect $130,000 for my car, but hell, would I get a little bit more money if I did that? I'm starting to think that might be a thing to do. Do you know any welders, Deeb? Because I'm after it. That's what I'm going to do next. All right.
I feel like the fine folks at God and Classic know exactly.
Oh, they're too expensive. They know how to do it, but it'll be too nice. I can't afford that kind of. Porsches are way too expensive. All right, what do you guys think of the results? Let us know in the comments. What's the next car on the list, Michael Deeb?
All right, JP, one for you. A 1988 Volkswagen Scirocco 16-valve running no reserve and as an alumni listing on Bring a Trailer. Our car is located in Northridge, California, and is showing 32,000 miles, but true mileage unknown. However, JP, one glance at the interior tells me I think that 32,000 miles is correct. Scrap the TMU. This car looks fantastic on both the outside and the inside. John, the big question is, why aren't these cars bringing more money to the young timers? I know you're saying that the young kids that think they're cool can't afford them. Why aren't the guys our age paying a premium price to have a car from their youth, especially if it's in as good a preserved condition as the one we see listed here? John, our friends at Classic tell us that the average selling price of the Scirocco in the secondary market is just $17,000. My initial take on this car was that it would bring like closer to 30. I tempered my bid when I finally opened my mouth and gave you the bid of just $20,000. John, you took the under at $18,500, and you were way closer than I was. Our car hammering for only $16,000, where it sold on 25 bids. JP, you were correct in tempering your expectations for one of the nicest Siroccos we've seen come to market in a while. I don't understand what is going on here. Oh my God, is that well bought? JP, what do you think?
I just don't think there are enough people out there in the world that want Siroccos. I am one of the people that do. And I kind of wanted this one. And yes, I agree with you on the condition for everything except that dashboard. That dashboard, you know how it is when a cracked dashboard is just such a deal killer. And it's just a problem on Volkswagens of this era. They do not take the sun well. And you can't find parts for these. You're not finding a replacement one. Hey, Shiny Fender's got a Yahtzee on this, so good job, Shiny Fenders.
Way to go, Shiny!
Yeah, way to go. Deeb, I think you've mentioned it before, and I wanted to bring it up again. Yes, I was actually watching this auction. Yes, I was genuinely thinking about getting off my wallet on this, because this car is incredibly nostalgic to me. But you know what? Really, like in the last minutes when I'm sitting there going, because I'm going to wait. I'm going to let everybody else do their thing, and then I'm going to come in at the last minute, like in the last minute and a half. That's when I'm going to dip in when I think it's about to be over, right? And maybe it keeps going from there. Yeah. But I'm not the guy that's going to be like bidding early and waiting, all that kind of stuff. No, I'm going in there at the end and trying to get in when I can. But look, the freaking seller kept thanking every single bidder for their bid. Someone would bid, "Thanks for your bid, Joe Blow." Someone bids, "Thank you so much for your bid," at whoever. Someone else bid, "Oh, thank you so much. We really appreciate it." It's like, shut the F up. There is a time on auction when you are the seller that you got to just step back and hope that you did the job, hope that your assets are doing the work, and that you've interacted with everyone. Make sure you're there for the questions if there are any last minute objections to the car. But otherwise, sit on your hands and zip it. Shut up. Nobody wants to hear you. You're breaking momentum. What you want to see is those bids come in, another bid, another bid, another bid. But instead it's like a bid and then, oh, here's some jagoff telling you, "Thanks for your bid. Thank you for your bid." It's just the most beta way to sell a car I think I've ever seen. And it just made me go, you know what? I think that's par for the course for Scirocco owners. That's what a Scirocco owner is like. And it made me go, I don't want to be a Scirocco owner. I don't want to be like that guy. Yeah. I don't. Sorry, dude. Yeah. You ruined it. And I think he probably turned off other bidders. I can't believe that I'm the only person in the room thinking that. What do you guys think? Why did this Scirocco not bring more money? Do you think it's because the seller couldn't shut the F up and he wrecked his own auction? Or do you think Sciroccos just aren't that popular? Let us know in the comments. Any last word on that one, Dee, before we move on?
Yeah, my partner is correct. During the last hour of the auction, put the mouse down and then just, you're a passenger at this point. Stop talking and let the auction unfold. It doesn't need your help. If you did all the work that you were supposed to correctly leading up to that, there's nothing you can say or do that's going to change it, and it should already be set to explode. And if it doesn't, then you failed much earlier than not thanking the guy during his bid process. My partner is 100% correct. And if you don't understand what we're talking about, don't worry about it. We got you. Just call us. We'll sell your car for you. The bid nerds will sell your car, and we will get you top dollar. We will get you more than you could so that our commission doesn't cost you a dime. So call the bid nerds. We will get every one of our auctions ends in a happy ending. I can't believe I just said that. All right, let's
happy
get
ending
off
for every auction. All right. What's the next car on the list, Steve, before we get to some new predictions? What do we got?
Oh my God, I can't believe that just happened. I felt like that was a Jedi mind trick. JP, I love this little Alfa Romeo that we found as a premium listing on Bring a Trailer. What we're talking about is a 1972 Alfa Romeo Spider-R that was constructed by the fine folks over there in England that call themselves Alfaholics. What they did, JP, is take the correct 2-liter inline 4-cylinder engine and replace it with a Milano-derived 3-liter, so that's going to be a Verde or one of those monster Zagatos, 3-liter Busso V6 with a 4-valve head, and they were estimating that the engine in this car was literally putting 220 horsepower down to the ground, which is a massive, that's like more than double the horsepower that would have come in the car stock. So they took out the inline 4 and reinstalled a built 3-liter V6 up front. Got a great 5-speed transmission, suspension work, brake work, beautiful leather seats. They repainted it in a Ferrari color and covered headlights. JP, this is not a Duetto, but a camtail. So the rear end looks like the garage door closed on it and just made a straight cut down the back of the car. Beautiful photos and a premium listing by our good friends over at 1600 Veloce in North Salem, New York. The question, JP, is how do you put a number on a car? Most Alpha guys don't know what the hell they're looking at when they try to figure out what this car is. JP, this car, that V6 is widely regarded as one of the best sounding V6 of all time. The driving video of this listing is pure joy. If you haven't already, set aside 5 minutes, turn up the speakers on your computer, and enjoy the video and audio that comes with this listing. John, our friends at Classic.com tell us that the average selling price of a 72 Alfa Romeo Spider is just $15,000 in the secondary market. I thought this car, with all the Alfaholics engineering and finishing, would bring $130,000 when it hammered, but that I thought that the car was probably worth more. JP, you just took a very conservative right underneath me at $125,000. And here is where the rubber meets the road. Our BAT premium listing hammered at $136,000 even, where this car failed to sell on 53 bids. But a day later, JP, when you and I opened up our computers to do tonight's show, it shows the listing as having sold for $175,000, meaning they eventually made a post-hammer deal, and in an unusual twist, published that result, which is pretty cool. So congratulations to the buyer. Super congratulations to the seller. And JP, I kind of got you on both accounts. The car hammering for just a little bit over my bid and then selling for about another 40 grand more. 175 still seems like a screaming deal, because if you have a 1972 Alfa Romeo and you would like to turn it into the car that you see on these pages here, you have to ship that car to England. You probably have to send them a couple $100,000, and then you have to ship it home. I would say it would cost you the north of $250,000 to replicate what you see here. And that doesn't include the car, even though the car is only worth $12,500. So JP, at 175, I'm going to go ahead and say well bought, and I'm super jealous. What do you make of that result? How cool is it that BAT published a post-hammer deal? That's something we don't see very often at all.
I think, I mean, when it happens, they do, I believe. That is kind of their standard practice, I thought. But, I mean, this seller thought they were wrecked. I mean, at 130, and then to get a post-hammer deal that much more, I mean, that must have been one hell of a phone call. How did you get from 130-something to 170-something? I mean, that is a hell of a bump. And it's interesting to think that guy, that buyer who actually pulled the trigger at 175. If there was just one other person in the room that agreed with you, Deeb, who knows where this car would have gotten, but that was the only guy that wanted this car other than the person that owned it. And the person that owned it had a tight enough grip on it that they weren't letting it go unless it went to 175. That is some confidence after seeing your car fail to sell at 130 something. So yeah, congratulations to the seller on this one. I don't think this car is well bought at all. I agree with you that it would cost way more to build this thing, but that doesn't mean that that's what the car is worth. If this thing only got to 130 and it was that much work to get another however many tens of thousands of dollars, there just wasn't other people. There weren't other people in the room, and I don't think there are. Like you said when you were introducing this car, a lot of Alpha people don't even know these exist. And man, listening to that video though, I could see myself if I were in that budget, it would be. This is, that's the problem with cars like this is I can only imagine how awesome it must be to drive. And that's why it's so important to have good assets like these guys did, and making a great video, a driving video, to really kind of let the potential buyers know that this thing is something special. When you hear this thing rip, when you hear that engine rev, you're just like going, oh man, that does not sound like a little 2-liter that's usually in one of these, like your dad's. So this is something.
Cue the Jay Giles band. Don't fall in love. She's a beauty. She's one in a million.
All right. We are, since everyone just dipped out because we started the karaoke portion of the program. If good thing our good friend Rami isn't here, we're really getting out of hand. All right, guys. We are going to get to predictions. The cars that we have on the list, we got a big list of cars tonight. They're very interesting cars. Some big heavy hitters, and it's going to be really interesting to see what your guys' bids are. I don't know if anybody's heard, but the government shut down or something. Is that going to affect how you bid on cars this week? We are going to get after it with new predictions right after this. Hey guys, you're probably looking at your watch and wondering if Bid Nerds will ever end. So you better talk to our friends at Our Smiths to make sure your Rolex, Tag Heuer, AP, or any fine timepiece is in tip-top shape. Our Smiths, fine Swiss repair. All right, we are back. I'm looking at my Our Smiths Aviara custom watch, and it is time for predictions. Hopefully Dwayne Wick's back. He had to go. He was in the nerd herd, but he's hanging out. He had to go watch that driving video on that Alpha. Smart thing to do, but I say stick around, watch the rest of the show. When the show's over, then you can go back and watch the Alpha video. That is my recommendation. Okay, guys, lots going on in the news. We're not going to get political or anything like that, but the government's shut down. So a lot of people are worried that the sky is going to fall. Is it much ado about nothing? Will it affect the auction results this week going forward? Let us know what you think in the comments as we go ahead and get to the auctions. What is the first car we got on the list? Whew, I'm excited about this one. Wowzers.
All right, JP, just a quick shout out to Single Cab, Gary Lee, Kevin Bodeman, and Dave Yu that all corrected me. It's not Jay Giles' band that I was singing. I was singing the Tubes. Right on. Okay, cool. Thanks for my
We have a lot of boomers
right
in the audience. You can tell right there.
Absolutely,
and we love our boomer nerds.
All right,
what's the first car?
Feast your eyes on a car that, as it turns out before the show, you and I both admitted we didn't even know existed. It is a 2005 Ford GTX1 running as a premium listing out of Naperville, Illinois, number 18 of an alleged 40 models produced. Our car has 17,000 miles. This is a real Ford GT, and they took 40 of these cars, apparently, over to the fine folks at Gennady Design Group of Green Bay, Wisconsin, where they essentially copied the Targa top of one of the first Ford GT prototypes, which was called, I believe, the GTX1. And the first prototype car had what was essentially a Targa top. The roof was cut off, and that was a car that Ford used to develop as a development mule to create the Ford GT40 and start the program of developing the car so that they could challenge Ferrari specifically with a overall outright win at Le Mans. As Ford brought back an itineration of the GT40, the GT that dropped in 2005 is certainly a homage to the stunning and legendary original GT40 of the late 1960s. I was unaware of the fine folks at Gennady Design Group of Green Bay, Wisconsin, taking about 40 of these cars, or taking about 40 customers and chopping the roof off of their cars. Now, I have no idea what this process cost. What I do know is that it's super cool that this gorgeous black Targa-topped GT has a whopping 17,000 miles on it, meaning the guy who had it not only has money and vision and taste, he's also got a pair of cojones, and he's out there driving this damn thing, JP. Nothing could make me happier than to see 17,000 miles rather than 1,700 on some little, snot-nosed speculator who's thinking, oh, I'm going to spend even more money on it because it'll be worth more money down the road. This guy's out there driving it, JP, and I think that is pretty damn cool. JP, I don't care what this guy may or may not have sacrificed in structural rigidity. It doesn't matter. He's not racing it. I love that he ripped the roof off this car. I don't care if it has the integrity of a box of tissue. I think it looks dope. It looks even excellent in black with the white and silver stripes. This thing is sick. And I think the folks at Gennady did a great job with the way they cut this car, because they didn't lose the car's beauty in the process. And so I think the whole exercise is awesome. It makes me happy to think that they found 40 of them. It also makes me happy to think that they didn't make more than 40 of them, and that the guys that spent the money will probably get a return on that investment, because I imagine these cars, whenever they come up, are pretty damn desirable in the secondary market. So, John, I am super proud to show you a black Ford GT where the roof comes off. Man, do I hope your ship comes in, because if you own it, I get to drive it. Where are you at on a GTX1? And what do you think about this guy slapping 17,000 miles on that odometer? Man, that dude is cool.
I am heading out to the pier right now to see if that ship is on its way, because holy cow. there are so many cars out there on the wish list. There's so many oh yeah, I'd like to get a Singer. Oh yeah, I'd like to get this car or that car. But as much as I'm a Porsche guy through and through, this is one of my favorite cars in the world. Maybe one of my top 3 favorite cars of all time without a roof like this. I've always loved this generation of Ford GT, but that was always the one thing. I did get a chance to drive one once, and the only thing I didn't like about it was that it felt very confined, you were definitely a cat person in that car. It is a small cabin, and it is a very low roof. Even with a short guy like me, you're just not connected to the world. Everything is about that inside of the cabin. This just opens up the car. I can try to imagine how awesome it would be to drive this, but I know I would be wrong. That said, what's it going to bring? Is it going to be more than they usually do, or less because it doesn't have a roof? And we know how that affects Porsche.
Okay, so there is a column for this specific model on classic.com. However, there's not a number associated with it, as they've not seen one transact. JP, there was a red one a couple of years ago that was listed for sale in the secondary market in the high $500,000 range. And then a few weeks later, that exact car ran on Bring a Trailer, where it failed to sell in the low $500,000 range. Fast forward 2 years, and JP, we see that this exact car is still listed as a classified ad, because the folks at classic.com scrape that data and they post it forever. And this car has an asking price of $699,000, which is over $100,000 more than the red one was being asked for. But that car is now delisted, as it is running as a premium listing on Bring a Trailer. So if we take the $700,000 ask and the 2 results from the red car, we get an average of those 3 numbers at $587,000. JP, because the car has 17,000 miles, I don't think it's going to come close to 700. In fact, I do think it will struggle to break 6. So my bid, based on almost no intelligent information whatsoever, is going to be $598,000, and it might as well be me closing my eyes and throwing at a dartboard. I hope I hit something and not somebody. $598,000 to you, JP, is about $100,000 under what they're asking for this example. But man, trying to figure out what the true value is, I guess we'll find out here, because as a premium listing, this car will have run more than 7 days on BAT. I think that whatever the hammer is should give us a pretty good indication of what this car should be worth. I don't think it's going to be $700,000, but I've been wrong before. JP, $598 to you.
Yeah, I think the relative rarity of this car is not really going to add much value at the end of the day because of the amount of miles. Unfortunately, one of the nerds mentioned or noticed that the rear bumper delete, that really does look awesome on the back. Our bid turn, Lucas hopped in there and said this conversion only cost about $38,000. But when you consider when this car was contemporary, this car only sold for around $100,000 brand new. I think they're 100 or 125, if that.
They're more than that.
I don't think so.
They were a couple hundred.
No, they were definitely not a couple. Like, I guarantee you, they were not a couple $100,000. They were, and the dealerships were stuck with them. They couldn't sell these. Ford is so bad at this. Like, they do not know how to price their supercars. Look, I remember these things just sitting around, because some were stuck after the crash. Did you find the original amount that they were asking?
Yeah, it split the difference between us. It was $149,995 was
I knew it wasn't over 200. I knew for sure it wasn't over 200. Now in today's dollars, that's well over 200,000. But I mean, even back then, 150.
Your point is valid. Ford doesn't know how to price their special stuff. That's for sure.
Yeah,
when dealers were asking over 150,
Yeah, when they came out with the new Ford GT, they asked all the dealers, or not all the dealers, but they brought in a bunch of the higher higher end dealer principals who had been with Ford for many years. Deeb knows one of them that I'm talking about. You probably heard this story from the horse's mouth, but they're like, hey, what do you think we should sell this thing for? And everyone's going, you didn't know before you built the damn thing how much you're going to sell it for? What Ford, what the hell? Stick to Explorers. Okay. I do think that you got to have big cojones to have this car, because it's not because it has a ton of power or its amazing performance, but the fact that if you leave your garage without that roof, you're without a roof until you get back. So you got to be prepared to get wet. And that's what I love it, because there's no place to put the top in this car. There's no frunk in this thing for that Targa top like there is in a Targa 911. I think it's going to get a little more than you. Look, I think your bid is right on, Deeb. I mean, you're looking at other Ford GTs, and some of them are only getting 3.5, 4. Like, the value of these has really dropped a lot. And I think that this one, I'm going to go ahead and bid just a couple of bucks over you. I'm going to go $600,001. And hope it sells. I hope that somebody gets the car. I hope that the seller has kind of realized that it's not summer anymore. What were you going to say?
I get so excited sometimes, JP. I can't wait to tell you my bid. Our car is currently sitting at $490,000. It has 2 days to go before it closes, and that 490 comes to us by way of 28 bids. So there is action on the car. The question is, will it bring more than $110,000 when it closes? If it does, JP will be right. The question then becomes, how much over JP's bid will it take in order for this guy to sell? Is it 6.25? Is it 650? Is he holding out for the 700, which means he's got to get himself to like basically 690 to get this thing across the block? I don't know. So it'll be a very interesting close. This is one of the more intriguing cars we've covered in a long time, JP. I'm glad you liked it as much as I do. And John, I just want to say, those cold winters in Vegas are pretty dry. You could take the top off this thing and not get wet for about 4 months, John. I just think you're the perfect guy for this car.
Dwayne Wick is offering in the Nerd Herd. He's right here. He's got a Ford F-150. If I buy this car, he's just going to follow me around with the top. So that means I guess I'm bidding. This is happening. All right. Yeah. Things are, I'm excited. I'm going to put a Ford GTX1 in my garage. How much is it going to cost me? Let me know what you think in the comments. And we got a bunch of other cars to cover. We're going to have to pick up the pace. What do we got next, Deep?
All right, JP, I kind of picked this car for our buddy Sahan because this car just looks like the Persian pillow. Feast your eyes on a basic 1988 Mercedes-Benz 560 SEC that has been modified to look like an AMG 6-liter wide body. It has not. This car was modified. It is not an AMG 6-liter. It is a modified car with a body kit that looks like the AMG. It's not even, I don't even think it's real AMG bodywork. However, JP, the fine folks at the company that's called Aspard, A-S-P-A-R-D, Aspard Garage, put a certificate together where they listed all the stuff they did. Metal AMG wide body kit made by a company called CMS Motorsports. The big news, JP, is they basically stripped an SLK 55 AMG to take out a 5.5 liter normally aspirated V8 built by AMG that makes only 355 horsepower. But I know for a fact that that motor makes 400 pound-foot of torque. I'm just going to say it, JP, that's probably the perfect motor to put in this thing because you forego forced induction, although Sahan would probably add one later, but you've got the sort of basic reliability of a real stump puller in this relatively non-lightweight big Mercedes coupe. They also stripped that SLK of its rear suspension componentry and retrofitted it to the rear end of this car to help this car put all that power down. JP, I'm just going to say it right here. I think this is an awesome little build, an awesome little build without being some crazy, like $250,000 thing. I like what I see here. I know those seats aren't the stock seats. I don't really know exactly where they came from. Maybe somebody who's a Tubes fan in the nerd herd can also tell me who makes these seats. But I like the look of the car. The leather and the suede are subtly done. It's not eccentrically done. It's not overdone. It's got a period correct steering wheel. It's got an updated, ventilation system and a few things. I'm just digging it. This car looks like it just rolled right out of the Matrix and right into your garage, Sahan. And I think Sahan should be bidding on it. I think the heartbreak is going to come when this car winds up costing more money than that purple Targa Sahan wanted originally that he didn't get. But I dig this car. And I dig this car for a friend of ours, JP, because I think he would make this car look even cooler than it looks in these studio photos right here. JP, I got to tell you, man, I got a soft spot in my heart and an even softer spot in my wallet for this build. I don't know who these folks are at Aspard, but I like their taste. Everything they did here agrees with my sensibilities. Now you get to pick it apart. JP, tell us what you like about this car, and don't hold back. Tell us what you don't like about it.
I love this car. The only thing I wish they could have done is found a way to put 3 pedals in it. But I'm just amazed that they were look at the switch work. They were able to get the modern, air conditioning and buttons on the center of the dash there, and the gauges from a modern car to fit in there like they look like they're supposed to be there. Like nothing looks like it was forced. The stereo looks a little lame, like they usually do. But I mean, this is a great resto mod. I am shocked how well this thing comes together, mixing the old and the new, because so often there's a lot of failure when you try to do that. We saw that with a BMW. I think on the last episode, it was a 70s. I don't remember what it was, but it had much newer seats that just didn't fit. These seats are obviously much newer, but they seem to work with the car. Again, the switchgear is, I'm just shocked how good that looks. Okay, this car is beautiful. It's got to be awesome to drive. I do agree with you, Deeb, that this engine, having that much torque, it's going to use every bit of it, because these are not lightweight cars. It's going to need that kind of grunt to get this thing out of the way. And this is the kind of resto mod that you want to see. This is not the kind of resto mod that you see so often when someone tries to update, call it an old Corvette with a new Corvette engine. They put, big 25-inch wheels on it or something like that. All right, what's this thing going to bring?
All right, JP, our car is currently sitting at $110,000, and it closes in 2 days. That comes to us by a frenzied, a lot of photos, just 6 bids. So, JP, I kind of wonder, I feel like they're probably looking for something close to $200,000, but conservatively, and the fact that I've never heard of these guys, and I imagine most other people haven't either. However, I say that with the asterisk that this model, this generation of Ferrari is definitely having a moment. And this
Mercedes.
year, JP, we have covered more than what did I say? Yeah. So these Mercedes, these AMGs, they're having a moment. They're bringing big money and they're highly desirable. But my number is going to be just a bit conservative, John. I'm going to go $156,000, 156,000. But I wouldn't be surprised if this car got closer to 185 or 200, just because the fit and finish look excellent to me. And I think this would be a hell of a lot of fun to drive. 156 to you, JP. Where you at?
Yeah, I'm going to go above that, because despite everything going on in the news and whatever might be happening with the economy, this is the kind of car that some young timer who's writing code for an AI company or some weapons company or something like that they're the ones that want this thing, and this thing is just done so right. We don't see a lot of these coming around. You're right; they're having a moment, and I don't know why. I like this car, but I still don't understand why this is a $200,000 car, or potentially that high, or even over 100,000 if I'm honest. But your bid was what, 150 what?
156, 156.
I'm gonna invert those second numbers. I'm gonna say 165 $560. I think this car is going to get a little bit more than that because the ones that are getting like those Hammers and the AMGs and stuff like that, they don't have all this cool resto mod stuff. I think that's going to bring this car. We talked about the Alfaholic car as being, Alfaholics is like the singer of Alpha. And I just don't think they have the fit and finish to really be able to claim that. This car, looking at all the details, I'm not going to say that this is the singer of Mercedes, but geez, these guys are good. So I think it's going to do well. Let us know what you guys think in the comments. I think a lot of the Nerd Herd is agreeing with me because most of the bids are above you, Deeb. So we will see in just a couple of days.
Randy
Let
B
us
agrees
know.
with me.
Yeah, all right.
Yeah, Randy B is the same as me, and Steven Greenblatt is right at you, 165,999. He's just over you by a couple bucks.
There you go. All right, let's move on. What's the next car on the list?
All right, JP, you picked one, and it is a car I would like to own. Check out the 2009 Porsche Cayenne GTS 6-speed as a featured listing on Cars and Bids, showing 122,000 miles out of East Brunswick, New Jersey. JP, this car is really cool. I get nervous when I see red E1 Cayennes because a lot of times they have too much red in the interior, red stitching and red gauges. This car, John, is restrained. It's an all-black interior with just red seatbelts. And this particular wheel, I don't know what you call this model of the wheel, the 21-inch wheel that's on this car, but I love this wheel on this car. And, of course, the 6-speed manual and the big naturally aspirated V8 with 400 and something horsepower. JP, these cars are awesome, and they bring pretty good money in the secondary market. The question is, does the odometer make this a really tantalizingly affordable one? Or are these cars still so strong in the secondary market? Its odometer be damned. This thing's 40,000 all day, every day, and twice on Sunday. So, JP, what do you like about the particular one you see here? You know these better than I do because I think you've owned like 2 of them now, right?
Yeah, I've owned I think 5 manual Cayennes, but I've only owned 1 GTS. I've had the pleasure of driving a few more in the manual version.
Wick helps you. Wick helped you with that car, right?
He did. He saved me $3,000. If you wind up buying this car and you find that it has a leak in the rails for the roof rack and the panoramic roof, which is very common on these. If you go to the Porsche dealership, they will ask you to buy both rails and the seal kit for about $3,000, including installation. Dwayne Wick and I went in his garage. We unscrewed the rails. There are 4 or 6 little star screws on the top, if I remember correctly. Dwayne's watching, so maybe he remembers. But we spent about $1.50 on rubber O-rings. We pulled those little screws out, replaced the O-rings, screwed them back in, and it sealed it up. Fixed the problem. Literally saved me $3,000. But that's not what makes this particular car awesome. It's the fact that this thing has 3 pedals. These are magnificent to drive. They will stun you when you get behind the wheel and step on it and row through the gears. It'll just make you giggle and smile ear to ear. One thing that's interesting about the GTS Cayennes that people don't realize is that the steering wheel is thicker than the steering wheels in a regular Cayenne. So when you grip onto that steering wheel and move down to the gear shift lever and back, it's just, gosh, it feels so darn good. I love this rig. The downside of this car, I think the only real thing that's going to hold it back is the fact that it's from New Jersey and it looks like it. This car looks like it was driven on East Coast roads. I haven't seen any photos underneath. I'm going to see if there are any. I would be genuinely concerned about rust and corrosion with cars coming from the East Coast. People who buy an SUV on the East Coast plan on driving them in the snow and the hail and all that kind of stuff. And looking at the underside here, it doesn't look too bad. There is some basic corrosion, but it looks fairly clean. But it's not as clean as you would expect on a West Coast car. So we'll have to look at some of those pictures a little bit more closely to really get a good idea of it. What do we think this is going to bring?
All right, JP. The trouble with our folks at classic.com is they only have one column for an E1 Cayenne GTS, and that number is going to include both automatics and manual transmission cars. That number for the E1 Cayenne GTS is just $27,000. I think the number for manuals is significantly higher. This one has a teeny bit of corrosion underneath, but it does look pretty clean overall underneath there. And it does have some miles on it. As we mentioned, this car is showing 122,300 miles. JP, I'm going to temper my bid just a little bit. I do think it's on the right platform, but the assets are poor. I'm going to go $32,000 at Hammer and say that it sells and that this guy knows it's now or never to get rid of this car, or he's stuck with it through the winter because nobody's going to pay to ship that car to the West Coast in the dead of winter out of New Jersey. So I think he'll let it go for my number, even though I believe my number is a little bit light. JP, if you buy it, you can sell it next summer for 38. So 32,000, John, to you. You going to go over that?
I'm going to go way over that. I'm not even going to play for the spread. We just saw a Generation 2 Cayenne, a base model. Granted, it only had something like 60,000 miles on it, but that is not nearly the car this is. That Cayenne with a manual, I think, what was it, a 2011 or something like that, or 12, 13? I can't remember. Whatever. It was the second gen one.
Yeah.
Base. That thing sold for $125,000. That's all anyone's talking about right now is Cayennes with manual. They're so hot right now. This is so, what is it, Mufesto or whatever. Granted, this has a lot more miles, but the GTS is just a superior driving experience, and this car does have a lot of the maintenance that you got to worry about done. I looked at the things that were done recently. There are a lot of things, unfortunately, the GTS is not the cheapest thing to maintain, but this one has had a lot of the stuff that you would usually have to do in this mile interval. I don't think that the rough condition is going to hurt it too badly. I'm going to say $45,000 and say that people would ship this anywhere, especially this time of year. If you want an SUV, if you want to buy an SUV, but the thing is, SUVs are going into the SUV season, unlike all the sports cars that we usually talk about. So I don't think that I don't think winter has any problem for this car. I think it's actually a feature, not a bug. But what do you guys think this Cayenne with 3 pedals will bring? Let us know in the comments. And if you want to know more about Cayenne manuals, watch my episode of Porsche Road Trip on the Cars Unknown YouTube channel. Watch the Portland episode. There's a whole bit about these in that section. In fact, one that's this color. All right, let's move on. What's the next car on the list?
All right, we're gonna stay on cars and bids, JP, as Doug DeMiro is helping somebody pedal a 2002 BMW Z8 with only 9,700 miles from new, and it's not Chris Carbine. JP, our car is actually listed out of Brentwood, Tennessee on a clean Tennessee title. Now, we saw Chris Carbine bring well over 2 bills for a beautiful blue car. We wonder aloud, a car with less than a third of the miles, but in the plain Jane silver. Would this car also bring over $200,000, or did Chris get the money for his because of the paint and the maintenance? Would a low mileage silver one do as well? Again, on the same platform. So JP, the Z8s are beautiful. The basic ones are still relatively affordable for how cool I think this car is. It is the end of summer. These assets don't do anything for me. I don't think they are selling the romance, as you like to say. The
vacuum your darn car, dude. Sorry, I had to just hop in there. I just had to do it. Had to do it. Sorry.
Yeah, dude. It's a poor presentation of a really special car with unusually low miles. And then they do this, let's call it a half-assed effort and ship it off to Doug DeMiro thinking, well, he wears cargos and a T-shirt. Who cares? Well, you're going to care when you see the hammer. So, JP, what do you think of this car? And then we'll jump into the numbers.
Yeah, this is a beautiful car, but I think Carbines did really well because not only did Chris make sure that the assets were well done on that car, but Cars and Bids themselves actually got behind that car. They made a feature film, or not a feature film, but a feature video for one of the Doug DeMuro channels, and really got a lot of eyeballs on that particular car. This car, on the other hand, this is where Cars and Bids, every time it's like two steps forward, 3 steps back. It's like, guys, you're there. You're getting it. You're making sure that your sellers are bringing good assets and are their best practices for selling. And then you let a listing like this on your platform. What the hell? Why didn't you tell this guy, no, you have a premium car. You need to have premium assets to get the most amount of money. This is going to not only not sell, but it's also going to hurt the platform. This is just stupid. This is an unforced error. There's no reason for this kind of failure. What the hell are they doing over there? Come on, guys. You're so close. What's it going to bring, Deeb?
JP, on top of not vacuuming the car, the front wheels in this car have braked us all over them.
Guys.
I mean, this guy did nothing. It's so bad. And I really picked this car for the odometer, but now we're examining, presentation, and presentation shouldn't have anything to do with the listing. It should be so good you don't notice. And instead, we're on Cars and Bids looking at an absolute collectible car that should bring a high number for a non-blue car. And instead, we're like, holy God, who's in charge?
What's it going to bring? Let's finish it up. Let's finish it up. Is this owner Rekt?
JP, classic.com, they tell us the average selling price in the secondary market is $211,000. Our car is currently sitting at $131,000, and it closes in a day, which is essentially 2 days in Cars and Bid speak. John, my bid for this car is only $178,000 even. $178,000 at Hammer, JP, and I say that's an FTS because this should be a $200,000 car, but it's not going to get there looking like this.
I'm going to cheat and go with Chris Carbon, the expert on Z8s on Cars and Bids. He says 168. So I'm stealing his bid. And what do you guys think? Let us know in the comments below. Thanks so much for hanging out with us for an hour. We will be back on Sunday night. This is Bid Nerds. The bidding is over. We'll see you Sunday night. Thanks for hanging out.